Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for September's Urban Ag Hour. We're so excited to have you all here today. Sorry, just had a technical glitch, and today we'll be hearing from two really great speakers. So we'll hear from Alyssa Crijns, Urban Agriculture Production Technician at the Farm Service Agency, and Avik Mukherjee, a postdoctoral research associate working in integrated pest management here with Cooperative Extension and in Maricopa County. So without further ado, I know time is tight and we want to hear from these great speakers. So I'll invite Avik to present to us, and we will have time at the end for an open Q&A session with both of these great experts. So please drop questions in the chat. We'll save them for later. Unmute yourself in that open Q&A, and the questions will really dig deeper into these topics. Okay, Avik.
Hey, good morning, everyone. So I'll share my screen. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Avik Mukherjee. I'm currently working as a postdoctoral research associate in field crops IPM, focusing on alfalfa crop in Arizona. So today I'll talk about the integrated pest management and what is the role of the beneficials or natural enemies in integrated pest management. Okay, so what is IPM? IPM is integrated pest management, where we combine the chemical prevention, biological prevention, management practices, mechanical practices to control the pest population. So in this IPM continuum, we are chemically reliant to biologically reliant. We are targeting to be biologically reliant in the future. So there are many steps from chemically reliant to be biologically reliant. First of all, like scouting, making the threshold label, or setting the economic threshold for each crop and each pest, and then reduced risk of insecticides, then prevention. So we have done a lot of things in alfalfa in past 10 years. Currently, you can say we are here securing the economical threshold for alfalfa, weevil, and aphid in Arizona. But we want to be here in biologically reliant based on the natural enemies or the beneficials. So I'll give an instance that why IPM is important, or why the natural enemies are important in integrated pest management. So why beneficials are essential in integrated pest management program. So first of all, the pesticide resistance. So we use a lot of pesticides in each crop for different pest or different insecticides. Same group of insecticide usage might promote the resistance for other crops also, other pest and the beneficials. So that could be harmful for the beneficials, and that could enhance the pest population. Secondly, the secondary pest outbreak. So when we spray a broad spectrum insecticide, that kills all the beneficials and raises the outbreak of the secondary pest. Thirdly, the environmental concern. So when you spray any kind of pesticide, there are some rules and regulations from the environmental concern, so that we can save the environment from the residues, like DDT is banned already for their high residual values in the different kinds of birds, fishes, and even in mammals. So these three things are the main reason we can focus on the beneficials or natural enemies. So I'll give a quick example. So here in Maricopa County Ag Center, we do the alfalfa weevil trial performed from 2013 to 2022 in last 10 years. So we have chosen the two basic insecticides which are widely used to control alfalfa weevil, Warrior 2 and Steward. And I'll show you the mortality percentage from Warrior 2 and Steward in this presentation. And I will also show you that how many numbers of weevil larvae and adults per sweep we get before spraying, after spraying, and comparing these two products. And lastly, I will show you the yield comparison of worry to steward and untreated plots. So first of all, you can see the changes in application rates in Warrior. From 2013 to 2015, it was 1.8, and for steward, it was 2.6 ounce per acre. But in 2017 to 2019, the dose of steward has increased to 9.20 ounce per acre. It has increased significantly to control the pest, to keep it below the threshold level. And then after 2020, you can see that it has increased to 11 ounce per acre. So you can see that the significant increment of doses for steward, which is we are requiring right now to keep the level below threshold. And these are the lower limit of the steward application rate we have used in our past trials. So you can see the difference between Warrior 2 and steward. So Warrior 2's dose hasn't changed significantly, whereas steward dose has increased significantly over the years. So this is the first indication of getting resistance from the product of steward. We are not sure yet, but we'll have to wait for future years. So in this slide, I'll show you the historical mortality rate from these two products, alfalfa, weevil larva, and the adults. So in 2013, you can see that steward had the higher percentage of mortality than Warrior. Then 2014, Warrior has the higher percentage. 2015, Warrior. 2017, Warrior. 2018, Warrior again. So if you see all the years after 2013, Warrior has the better performance than steward in case of mortality rate. So this mortality percentage were calculated 7 days after the treatment or 7 days after the spraying. We sampled from alfalfa field by sweep nets, and then we sorted those samples. And next, I'll show you the number of weevil larvae and adults we have found in Warrior treated plots, steward treated plots, and the untreated check. So if you see all over the years from 2013 to 2022, Warrior 2 has performed better than steward and obviously the untreated check. Warrior 2 plotted plots have shown lesser number of weevil adults and larvae. That is good for the alfalfa production. But only this year here, 2020, you can see a significant difference in alfalfa weevil larva and adult numbers in untreated checks. But still, this year, Warrior has performed really good in terms of keeping it below threshold level. Also, steward has done a good job, but not better than Warrior. So all in these three instances, you can see Warrior has a better performance than steward. And lastly, I'll show you the yield comparison between Warrior, steward, and the untreated checks. So all the years you can see that the orange bars, the Warrior 2 has the highest yield, ton per acre, comparing to steward treated plots and the untreated checks. So from all these three instances, you can say that in last 10 years, Warrior has worked better than steward. But are we slowly heading towards the resistance from the product steward? Because we also spray the same group of insecticides for aphid management or other pests. So in that case, pest might building a resistance among them against these products. So what will be our next step? What we can do from our side as a grower, as a researcher, that is the incorporation of natural enemies and insect pests. So there are a lot of natural enemies, different kind of bugs, different kinds of beetles, different kinds of spiders, lacewings, flies. These are the abundantly found in the crop fields. You can find even in your backyard, even in small scale farms. So there are some damage pattern from these different types of natural enemies. You can see here, the assassin bugs are feeding on ligers, ladybug is feeding on aphids, wasp larva is inside here in the aphid. So there are different kind of damage pattern from these natural enemies that kills the pest population in field. So, but in small scale farm, it's different from the larger scale. So we mostly work on the field crop that is a large scale. But when we transfer the IPM program to the small scale, we have to keep in mind few factors. First is challenge. One second. Yeah, choosing the right crops for the farms. Whether you have to, depending on your place you are focusing on, you have to choose the correct cultivar or correct crops. Secondly, monitoring the field regularly. So you have to monitor your field regularly in case of that, how much pest population is there, how much natural enemies is there. Also, there are some green flags and red flags for IPM in small scales for farm. So in the recent study from University of California, they have shown that weedy covers and adding ladybugs to your farm, which is in a small scale, could help to incorporate and increase the number of natural enemies. Also, it also helps controlling the pest population in your farm. Also, they have red flagged these three factors: flood irrigation, bare soil, and plant species richness around your border of the farm or plots can negatively impact the population of natural enemies. It can also increase the number of pest population, different pest in your field. So keep in mind these factors might help you to build a good sustainable farm in your small scale. And next, I'll talk you about why adopting integrated pest management in small farms a little bit challenges nowadays, because we haven't explored the small scale area really good for now. So lack of challenge and technical support will be available from quickly, I guess. So we'll focus on that for the proper knowledge and technical support from IPM team for small scale farms. And availability of scale appropriate pest management will help the growers to focus on what they need actually for their particular scale appropriate, either small scale or large scale. And what are the opportunities? So if you incorporate the integrated pest management in your farm, it will bring you on from biodiversity and pest detection and response time in compared to the large scale. To the small scale, it will be very easier for you to detect your pest and plan accordingly to control them, how to control them. So currently I'm working on this project for the natural enemies funded by USDA and NIFA Alfalfa Seed and Forage System Program. So we have a collaboration with Utah State University to see the difference between the natural enemies in high desert and low desert in Arizona. So we'll see the impact of different groups of insecticides on natural enemies, and we'll understand what are the different factors, either landscape, climate, or other factors which can drive the natural enemy population along with the pest. And also we want to develop a tool that will include the natural enemies in decision-making process for alfalfa, and it will incorporate to build a good program for the farmers, good economical forecast, economical analysis for the farmers, so that how much efficient it would be incorporating natural enemies in decision making, which hasn't done before. So it is a very new area will be explored in this field. So what will be the expected outcomes for our research project? So increased awareness of natural enemy resilience in use of a traditional and newer insecticides. Secondly, pest and natural enemy responses to changing of different landscape and recently going the drought conditions and different climates. And thirdly, development and implementation of an updated economic threshold level for alfalfa weevil and aphids. That is the most important for field crops. But from this project, we can work on the small scale in coming years to see the differences between the population and how the natural enemy are working on the pest population management and how the trend of the pest populations are there in the small scale farms. And thank you so much. If you need any more information, you can contact me here. And thank you. Yeah, I'll be waiting for your questions at the end.
Thank you, Avik, so much for that presentation. We'll have time to ask all of the integrated pest management questions of Avik at the end. And please drop questions in the chat. Let's use his knowledge to integrate pest management on all of small farms and urban farms in Arizona. So I'm going to pass it along to Alyssa Crijns. She will be talking about accessing land. Thank you so much, Alyssa.
Hello. Good morning. Can you see everything okay?
Yes, we can see everything.
All right. Battling through some internet connectivity issues this morning, so bear with me. I have backups. But this morning I wanted to talk to you guys about accessing land, which is the question that I hear about constantly. So first, a little bit about me. My name is Alyssa Crijns. I work for the Farm Service Agency, which is part of the USDA. And I am the first employee in the Phoenix Urban Agriculture Pilot Program for FSA. We're one of the first few cities to be selected and to have dedicated staff to serve urban, small scale, and innovative producers. And the pilot program is Phoenix, but I want to make sure that it's understood that I can help anyone who would feel better served by someone who's focused on only urban, small scale, and innovative producers. And very exciting, in the near future, we will be have an office at the Cooperative Extension. So very exciting to look forward to. So today, it's my goal to be able to provide some actual concrete ideas and tools that will help you in your search for land. As you are trying to find land, as you're trying to see whether it's a good fit for you, and as you're trying to actually secure that, whether that means buying, leasing, or what have you. So first, buying land. Most of the time when people think of land access, they're thinking of buying land. But you know, that's not always the best choice. There are pros and cons to buying land or to leasing land. For example, if you're first starting out, putting up a bunch of capital to buy land may not be the best choice, because you need to see if you actually like farming, for one, and you may not want to have all of your capital tied up in actually buying the land, because you have a lot of other things that you're going to need to purchase to get started. Also, as urban farmers, land is really expensive, and there are a lot of other competing pressures like development to contend with. So renting and leasing land is also an option. You can also partner with organizations or farm in an incubator. You can work with an existing farmer to learn the ropes. But really the most important thing is that you start farming, that you're out there growing things, as I mentioned, so that you figure out if you like it, what you like to grow, you're learning, you're becoming better. And another thing is, if you start growing, even if it's just your backyard, what have you, then you can point to that and say, it's a proof of concept. So you can take that and maybe you can convince your neighbor, or you can convince the church down the block, or someone, friends, family, what have you, that maybe you could grow in their backyard in exchange for maybe some produce, or maybe they'll sign a lease with you. And I have a lot more information about leases towards the end of the presentation, including a sample lease that you can use to turn around and try to secure land for yourself. The first step is, of course, to look around and see what's available. And as urban farmers, you got to get creative. It takes a little detective work. And my point is, first, tell people that you're looking, and don't be afraid to ask people if you can use their unused space. People really like vegetables. They like seeing things grow, having green things. Maybe you can make a deal that you're doing some landscaping work, or you're maintaining their yard, or what have you, and there's a way to make a deal with people that will allow you to be able to continue farming and to grow. But if you're curious, you see maybe some land that looks fitting, you wonder there's a big open lot there, you see a space that might work, then I would encourage you to actually do some research and figure out who owns that, so that it would be possible to approach them. So in this presentation, I'm using Phoenix and Maricopa County as an example, but all of the resources that I'm talking about are available in every other county through the county assessor or the county recorder or what have you. So just Phoenix is an example, but these resources are available everywhere. They just may look a little bit different. So if you go to the county assessor's website, which has so many uses, exciting uses that I'm gonna share with you, then you can look on the map, zoom in, explore, see who owns what land. You can also see like the value, the history, how it's zoned. Here's another map layer of the same area to give you an idea of what's out there and what's available. Another possible way to access land is through tax liens. And it's a little bit complicated. So basically it's land where the owner has not been paying their property taxes. So after a certain period of time, the government auctions off the tax bill to be paid by the winning bidder. And then the deed is held by the government while the owner pays the new tax bill plus interest, the original owner pays the tax bill to the new owner plus interest. There's usually a time window for that. If it's not possible, then you get that property for only the price of the back taxes. So this is a way where you could access some land very cheaply. And there's a similar thing called a tax deed sale, except that's where you're buying it complete ownership at auction, sight unseen, so you don't really know what you're getting, but that also exists. So if you're interested in exploring this, properties are listed as delinquent at the end of December, and then they're sold in an online auction at the beginning of each February. And so if you go to this website, ArizonaTaxSale.com will take you, and you can explore, like, this is where the online auction takes place. Everything happens here. And you can take a look at what's available. Before that comes online, this also is listed on the county assessor website as well. So you see all those red dots, that's all land that you could possibly buy for a tiny fraction of what it's worth. Just to give you an idea of this land is out there. It exists. All right. And so moving on to evaluating your land, just evaluating it at a high level. If you can't just go in and decide that you're going to grow something there. And sorry, it looks like my slideshow's having a little bit of trouble. So I'll continue to talk my way through the presentation and see if my computer decides to, if my internet decides to come back. Can you still hear me?
Alyssa, I can share your presentation. I have it pulled up now, and so I can
Okay,
share it for everyone while you talk, if that is okay.
perfect. Yes, that would be excellent. Okay,
Can everyone see it?
yep,
Great.
thank you. Okay, so evaluating the land, you can't just decide that you're going to grow something and force it there. As you're going through the process of looking for land, you need to be sensitive in matching what you hope to grow with the land that you're seeing. So some of the biggest questions to consider, what will actually grow on the land? What is the land well suited for? How far away are you from the market? Are you going to have to travel a long time every time you want to make a sale? How much is that going to eat into what you're doing on your farm? Is there water? Of course, this is a huge question in Arizona, and the answer can be pretty complex. One baseline important thing to know is that if the land was not in agricultural use in the last 5 years, and it must also have an agricultural well, then you can only have a domestic well, which is going to cover less than 2 acres of land in production. There's a lot more complication than that. I know Colleen and our friends at the Cooperative Extension are happy to go into more depth with you if you reach out with a specific piece of land and want to understand the water situation there. Then feel free to reach out to Colleen. Next slide. Also, what is the topography? What's the climate like? What's the microclimate like? Are you able to make some adjustments? You can put in high houses or low houses to extend the season. You can, based on how you position it, maybe you're putting it, you're growing right next to a big concrete wall that's going to retain some heat and affect things. How much shade is there? Is it wide out in the open? What is the wind like? These are all things to consider. If it's very hilly land, especially over 5 to 10% grade inclines, then it's going to be very erodible. You're not going to be able to keep that under constant cultivation. You also want to look for deeper soil. Otherwise, you're going to struggle. So there's an equation of, if you have a lot of time, then you can make adjustments to the growing conditions. If you have a lot of money, you can adjust the growing conditions. But most of us fall somewhere in the middle. So that's, you want to keep in mind where you fall in that continuum. Okay, next slide. And so as you're starting to consider what land is around you, what might be available, this is an excellent resource. It's the Web Soil Survey. It's something that's produced by FSA's sister agency, the NRCS, and it's available online. If you just look up Web Soil Survey, you'll be able to find it. Next slide. So just to give you an idea of what it looks like and what's available, this is where it'll take you. You zoom in wherever you like. You can get a lot closer than this, a lot further. But you'll start by defining your area of interest. Next slide. And then it will show you all of the soil in that area. And it will tell you all about the composition. Next slide. This is just, and all of these break down into a ton more options, and they have great explanations of what all of these different qualities mean. But there's just a ton of information available at your fingertips on this website. So I would highly recommend checking it out as you're starting to evaluate land. Next slide. Of course, once you have land in mind, the best practice is to get soil testing done, which is going to give you an idea of what's in that soil. And especially in urban areas, there are a lot of additional concerns, including if you're near to roads, if there's been lead paint used there in the past, if there's been industrial uses, that things that you need to be sensitive to that don't really apply to our friends in the countryside. And easy ways to learn about the history of the land is to use the county recorder. Available in every county has a history of the deeds for that land, for any parcel of land. And the county assessor does as well. They have past maps. Next slide. Oh, sorry, can you go back one? So just to give you an idea of what this looks like, you can go back and look at a ton of historical imaging of land, which I got sucked into because it's cool. It's pretty cool to see. And that's just on the county assessor's website under GIS viewer, historical aerials. And then next slide. So for example, South Phoenix, when it was all farmland not too long ago. Next slide. And then of course you'll want to keep in mind zoning. So here's Phoenix has all of their zoning ordinances available online that explain everything that's available or everything that's possible to do in land. I would highly recommend, or it's essential that you check this when you're considering buying or leasing or doing anything with land in a city. And every city should have some version of this. I know I've talked to Colleen about this in the past, and she would be happy to talk to you more about what specifically applies for your city. Because it can get pretty complex. Okay, yeah. Then securing land. Next slide. So land security basically just means that you know where you will be in future seasons. As you're investing in the soil, you're planning for the future, you're developing a business plan, you're going to know where your income is coming from. Then you want to know where you're going to be farming. And as I mentioned before, a lot of people think of this as owning the land, of course, is the most secure attachment to land. So it's the highest security you can get. But through leases, you can also get quite a lot of security. And I think that that's something that I really want to emphasize, is that it's possible to achieve a lot of security through leases. Next slide. So a lot of the farmers that I've spoken to, you know, you have a friend, you have some organization that has agreed to let you farm. You've shaken hands, you feel good about it. But ultimately that's not very much security for you. And I understand that it can feel like a violation of this trust or this relationship that you've built if you ask to put everything in writing. But just for your own sanity, for the livelihood of your business, I would really recommend to put it in writing. So you can have a short-term lease, which includes a rolling lease. So for example, that would a rolling lease, if you have not heard of that before, means that basically you would renew it every year for, say, if you have a 3-year rolling lease, then you would renew it every year for the next 3 years. So then you know 3 years into the future what you're doing. And of course that length can vary. But you're basically just adding time at the front rather than the end of your lease. And so that way you'll have plenty of time, plenty of warning if things are changing in the future. You can also do a trial, a very short-term lease, and see what your relationship is with the landowner or with the land itself. Other long-term lease options, right of first refusal. So that means that if the landowner decides to sell the land, then they first offer that to you. So this is just something that you would write into your lease. So then you have a possibility to potentially own that land in the future. Or you could even explicitly put that in the lease and say, there's at 5 years, there's an option to purchase the land. Also a ground lease, which means that if you do any improvements to the land, if you build buildings, add infrastructure, then you are the owner of that. And whoever would move into that land afterwards would have to purchase that from you rather than the landowner. And then of course there's a residential lease where you're farming in your backyard, just tacking that onto where you're living. And next slide. So when you're thinking about creating a lease, there are 5 key things that you need to include. You need to include your name, the name of the individual or entity that's leasing to you. Second, you want to specify the premises, or that's exactly the land where you're talking about farming. And I'd highly recommend that you include a map on which you highlight the land that you're talking about, especially if it's not clear, like a residential lease is. If it's, say, the backyard of property or a smaller segment, you want to include the term, which is of course the length of time, and then the consideration, which is what you pay. So you cannot have a lease that says $0 and it actually be a lease. You need to have $1, even if whether you pay it or not, you have to put $1 at least. Or you could also say something like, you've done landscaping, you're providing vegetables, etc. But I would also include the dollar amount of what that's worth in your contract. And then both parties need to sign. So a bunch of other things that you can write into a lease. I'm gonna skip over it a little bit because we're running short on time. But you can specify that the landlord is going to need to repair this, or you're going to do this. You can specify how you're going to use the land. etc. The more detail that you have in the lease, the more protection that you have for yourself. Of course, I'm not a lawyer. This isn't legal advice. You can always give it to a lawyer to make sure that everything is compliant with the law. Then you're really, really secure. So one tool that I want to recommend to you, sorry, next slide. Yep. Is this Land for Good is a really cool organization. They have this tool that's building a lease. Basically you go through and fill out your information. It also has where that little plus sign has a bunch of additional standard language that you could insert that would be more specific about prohibited uses, permitted uses, liability, all of these different options that you see in the green in the side here. There you can add a lot more specificity that's going to protect you in the future. Next slide. And if that is a burden, I also created this sample lease, which is basically the most simple lease that should get you protected and give you some security to farm. So if you scan that QR code or go to the URL, and we'll send this out later as well, then there's a Google Doc where you just fill out the information that's highlighted in blue, or first make a copy, and then you'll be able to edit it, fill out your information, print it off, sign it. You have a lease, you're good. You have security in your land in the future. And it looks like I'm about at the end of my time, but just to throw it out there. So the Farm Service Agency that I work for, so first, we accept leases all the time. If you want a farm number to be officially recognized by the USDA as a farm, a lease is great. A lease is fine. We work with a ton of farmers who have leases. And the elements that I just explained is what I look for to make sure that it's acceptable. The Farm Service Agency, we do provide loans that are more accessible to producers for farm ownership and farm operating. In particular, I want to highlight microloans. Colleen, if you'll go to the second to last slide. Yeah. So you can have $50,000 towards farm ownership or $50,000 for farm operating expenses. And if those are annual operating expenses, you can get that $50,000 every year. And there's a greatly reduced administrative burden. You don't have to show as much proof of your business plan or your history of growing, things like that. So this is really accessible funding if you are looking to grow your business. And last slide. So this is my contact information. If you have any questions about our new urban ag pilot, or you want help applying for a loan, or you just want a farm number, this is how you reach me. And that's all.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. That was a great presentation. I am really quickly just going to put on screen our survey. We listen to all of your feedback, and it's how we plan for the next iteration of Urban Ag Hours. I'll just share this with you all. So if you wouldn't mind taking a quick moment here, to scan that QR code and click the link. We'll drop it in the chat. Let us know how today was for you. What do you want to see more of? And then we'll jump right into Q&As because we've covered a lot. So I'm sure there are lots of questions to ask. And I'll also send that link via chat, send it out via email. Please, we really love feedback. It helps us to keep putting on better and better events for you all. So I did have a question, and Iman answered it briefly in the chat, as did Avik. But thinking about management for pests common on small farms, and one pest that we hear a lot about is the squash beetle. So now what are the management practices you could take in IPM to manage for squash beetle on a small and urban farm?
Yeah. So first of all, you have to see the trend, like, to keep sampling for a few weeks or so to see the trend and the number of populations they have. If they are not doing damage significantly from the economic aspect, then I don't think there need to be done anything. But if it's doing any kind of damage to the crops or reducing yields, then only you should go for the control practices. So for squash bug, I'm not sure about squash bug, but maybe some management practices, because the squash beetles are mainly eat on the foliages of the crop plant. So might be helpful to monitor them first, and then based upon your size of the farm, so you can choose some insecticides out in the market. So you can spray if that is not impact negatively on the crop plant. Maybe Ayman can suggest more management practices for squash bug.
Yeah, just to add to what Avik mentioned, there are like few factors here we would like to consider. One is the stage that these squash bug are attacking. It's mainly the seedling and the flowering stage. So this is a stage that are more vulnerable for the damage of this bug. You need to be quite vigilant and to screen your area and figure out whether you have it or not at these two stages. It's quite important, especially at the flowering stage. At the seedling, you still can, reseed, or you can manage them more because the plant's small. You can detect them, you can remove them, you can remove the cotyledon or some other area that might be affected by this insect. So that's one big thing, is the stage of that might be affected by this insect. The other thing is this insect has a little bit of range of host as well. So any other weed that related to the same family as the host for this insect might be good host for this pest during the time that you don't have the crop. So you need to break the cycle, which means you need to clean up, any weedy area on the side of your farm, or you need to make sure that you have a good weed management practices to break the cycle of this insect outside the time of your main crop. The other thing that we should keep in mind is the biggest rule of natural enemies in our system here in the desert is carried out by what we call the general predators. These are insects and arthropods that would eat any other insect and arthropod. So you have a wider range from them. You have a whole bunch of true bugs like the napped bugs and assassin bugs and others. You have the spider, you have collapsed beetle, you have lacewings, you have lady beetles, and you have others. There are many of them, and they are quite resilient in terms of the networking. They can rely on each other in some ways, and they can they can eat each other, as the good one can eat the good one in certain times. But mainly they are eating the bad insect most of the time because they have higher population. And the good thing about especially the group of predators that we show them in this flyer that Colleen shared is that they have some succession during the year. So you can go out to your farm and you found during some time of the year you have higher population of these predators, then it will reduce in number, and then you have higher population of the others. And they are all good in terms of eating a lot of other pests in our system. So once you have them, you need first to identify them quite good. And once you see them, you need to make sure that you have something, especially for the adults, because most of these predators, the adults rely on nectar. So you might need something on the side as, a flowering bed or something like that. It will help you in many ways, not only the natural enemies, but also attract some pollinators that can help with some of your production as well. So that's just a general idea of what we can do to deal with this insect and the others. But there are a lot of specification. There is some other natural enemies, especially what we call the parasitoids. These are very specific and very hard to find, and also the timing of the population of both the pest and these parasitoids many times is missed, and that's why we don't rely on them that much unless there is like some kind of coevolution or history in the area that suggests otherwise. I hope that would shed some light on this issue.
Thank you, Ayman and Avik. We have another question for you, for Avik. Re-IPM, you mentioned certain conditions, increased pest populations, bare soil, flood irrigation, and you also said plant species richness. Could you expand on that? Because folks thought plant diversity would attract and retain high population levels of beneficials.
Yeah. So it's a very good question. So it's actually a recent study from University of California based on the field crops. So, but it might be different for the urban ag or small scale. But what actually they're saying that there is higher correlation of pest population when they do the flood irrigation and when they're keeping the soil bare instead of any covers. Also, the combination of plant species which you are putting in the borders or in the margins of the field, they couldn't actually say what kind of species or what kind of broadleaf plants you should plant in the margins to keep away the pest, but they have given a general idea how the surrounding landscape of your farm or of your field can help to reduce the pest population or the keeping the number higher for the natural enemies. So in flood irrigation, I think there might be some kind of I'd say the conveyor thing that can increase the pest population, especially if it's in alfalfa. There is a high correlation with the flood irrigation and the increased aphid population. And also for bare soil, if you keep it bare soil, so you cannot attract any kind of natural enemies to your field. So natural enemies have to have some attractions to be around or in your farm or field. And for the plant species, it depends on the future research that what kind of best combination will work for your field based on your crop. So it might be different from one crop to another, but the study is still going, and I'll keep you posted if you want to know more about this information. So you can contact me through email or phone call. So thank you for your question.
And could you just expand a little bit on weedy covers and helping beneficials?
Yes, weedy covers, actually, the study mentioned the broadleaf species, not the grass ones. So the weedy covers, the broadleaf species actually covers most of the part of the ground and causes less evapotranspiration from the ground that can help to growing a little bit different microclimate, and that is good for the plants, small plants, and that attracts a lot of natural enemies like ladybugs or other bugs. So in any kind of field, ladybugs is, you can see, it's always a good predator for the pest population. So creating a microclimate from the weedy covers may be helpful for those ladybugs coming in and roaming around your field or farm. So think, but they didn't mention in that study that what kind of weeds or what kind of species of weeds are beneficial. So they're still working on it, but they have suggested that weedy covers, that means the broadleaf plants, will help more instead of grass crop covers from around your field or close to your plots.
Thank you. I have one more quick question in the chat, and then I see Ralph has his hand raised, so we'll go to him. And so is there any companion crop that would keep squash bugs away that I'm in or
So,
if you know of?
Yeah, I think for squash bugs, in general, if you can plant any kind of root crops like garlic or onion, maybe they are always keep away the pest in any kind of plots or farms. Also, you can plant marigold, I think, for keeping away squash bugs. So in my mind, these three would be really good plants to plant in your small scale or urban ag to keep away any kind of pest or insects.
Thank you so much. And Ralph, if you want to.
Great. Thank you, Colleen, and great job, Avik and Alyssa, in your presentations this morning. You know, I just wanted to just say a couple of words. Colleen mentioned how important it was to get feedback to guide the program, stuff like that. And the only reason that we have a special project is because people spoke up a few years ago and told Congress, look, we are tired of not having agricultural programs for small scale farmers, small scale producers. And so the importance of feedback really pushed Congress in the 2018 Farm Bill to include some components that said, hey, USDA, you guys need to stop just working with the commercial growers, the traditional farmers. You need to make available your services to small scale urban and underserved populations. And so what they did as a result of that, our leadership at USDA set up 17 pilot projects, of which Maricopa County is one of the 17 pilot projects. And we, meaning Extension, FSA, and NRCS. And I work for NRCS, and it's a great partnership. We have a strong partnership, and we're focusing a lot on the pilot project in Maricopa County, but we are also, all of us are very interested in making sure that our agencies with Extension, with FSA, with NRCS, we want to try to learn how to better serve the urban small scale farmers around the state. And so we are working on partnerships. We're working with a lot of other partners, non-governmental organizations and others. But I would say we need your help, just like Colleen is saying, we need your help to know how to best serve you, because for me and the staff within NRCS, we need to learn better how to work with small scale producers. And again, we hopefully, and Congress every 5 years puts together a new farm bill. We're scheduled to sign off on one this year. And again, your guess is as good as ours what's going on in Congress right now. But again, hopefully the new direction for the next farm bill, which will be the 2023 farm bill, hopefully that will give us additional guidance and motivation to continue working on the Servant project. But it's a lot of fun, and we're hoping that everybody can help us to better serve you guys. Thank you much.
Thank you so much, Ralph. That's a great segue. I'm going to pull up that survey QR code and link one more time. And after every event, I go through these, I organize them, and it goes into planning, and we share with partners. So I'm going to go ahead and share it on screen right now. Your opinion really matters to us, and we hope you found today useful. I'll be sending out some emails with the recording after the event and some resources that were shared via chat. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. We're at the hour, so everyone have a great day, and thank you to Avik and Alyssa and Iman for all of your input and sharing your knowledge and expertise with us.
Thank you, Colleen.